All right, welcome back to the Healthy Investor Podcast. Today I have with me Brock Mogensen. Brock has been investing in real estate for over 4 years. He lives and invests in Milwaukee, holds an MBA, and comes from an analytical background. He focuses mainly on underwriting, finding deals, and management. He is a principal at Smart Asset Capital, and the firm currently has over $20 million in assets under management. The portfolio is comprised of multifamily, retail, industrial, and self-storage. And he's also the co-host of the largest monthly multifamily meetup in Wisconsin. Brock Mogensen, thanks so much for being on today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So I'm saying your name properly, right? Mogensen?
You are. Yeah. Most people throw an R before the G there. So you did it correct.
Okay, great. Good. So tell us a little bit about your story, a little bit about your investing background, and what brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, I'm based here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Got started in real estate it's been about 5 years now. And ultimately it was an accumulation of growing up. I saw my dad owned two duplexes. Both my parents had very blue collar jobs. And I just growing up, I just saw what simply having two duplexes, that extra income coming in each month, how that can enhance your lifestyle. So out of college, I knew I needed to buy a duplex, right? Or just on my mind, buy a duplex, nothing really further than that. No further agenda than that. So I ended up, save up some money for a year, buy a duplex, did the house hack model, living in one side, renting out the other. And it was great. Right away, I was actually had roommates in the lower unit, tenant upstairs. I was living for free, and I think I was making like $500 a month. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, why isn't everyone doing this? So instantly I was like, how do I double down on this? How do I go bigger in real estate? Tried the convention, a lot of the conventional routes, trying to flip houses, wholesaling. I was running around putting signs out in yards and just didn't have much luck in that space. And as I was doing that, I was just learning a ton, right? Going to networking events, listening to podcasts, reading books, just learning everything, absorbing everything I could about real estate. And as I really looked into it more, I found that syndication was the path that I ultimately really wanted to go to. So I decided, all right, let me just kind of stop doing what I'm doing over here, and I'm going to just study syndication and try to partner with people and break into this space. That's what I did. Spent the next 6 months just learning everything I could, networking. Ended up connecting with two other partners that had some more experience and that wanted to get in the syndication space as well. Us three syndicate an 89 unit deal about a year after the duplex first deal I did, and then kept doing more and more after that. A few years later, I'm able to leave my job and go full time into real estate. So it was those 2 years were crazy busy and did a lot, but it's paid off.
Wow, that's a lot. So one of the things that, you can't change the past, right? But I started learning a little bit about real estate investing early 30s. And one of the things that I wish I had known when I was younger is the idea of house hacking. So house hacking is a really cool concept. And maybe we could talk a little bit more about that and just tell our listeners, what does house hacking look like? You started to go into that a little bit with your first duplex. What is house hacking?
Definitely. That's a great question. So house hacking really is, so 2 to 4 units, right? Falling in the residential category. You're living in one of the units and you're renting out the other units to tenants. So whether it's a duplex and you have one tenant, or a 4 unit and you have 3 tenants, that's the concept. And the reason it's really popular, the main reason is you're able to leverage the FHA loan. So 3.5% down. That's a big part of it. So if you think about it, I mean, I think a lot of times people think, oh, real estate, like, I have to have a couple $100,000 in my bank account to go out and get into real estate. I can't do that. FHA, I mean, if you're leveraging that, most markets, you can find it depending where you are. I mean, let's say you can find a duplex for 200 grand, 3.5% down with closing costs. I mean, you're in that deal for 10 grand at most. Most people can, save up $10,000 and get into real estate. So it makes the barrier to entry much, much easier, right? I mean, it's much easier to get in, and I think it's a great place for people to start. A lot of times you might be past that point in your life, but if you're at that point where you can sacrifice and go do that, I mean, it's the best way to start, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept. And like you said, the people who do it the most successfully really do utilize that FHA financing, right? 3.5% down. The other thing that's interesting from a smaller multifamily perspective, when you're looking at things that fall under what we refer to as residential financing, right? 1 to 4 units. A 1 unit house in any town, let's say, for example, you're in an inner city and most of the houses are townhouse style or row home style, as we call them in Philly here. Say the house is $150,000 for a single family. Well, a 2 unit may only be 185 or $200,000. It's not double the price to get 2 units. And then, so as far as initial costs or initial startup costs, it's not that much more expensive as far as your down payment is concerned. But one of the things that you touched on that I think was really great, and for young people just starting out, this is such a strong and powerful way to get started in the business. Even if you weren't making an extra $500 a month, the fact that you could live there for free because you're bringing in tenants, you're bringing in other residents, you mentioned roommates, right? Their rent, their income is helping to pay down your bills. I mean, living someplace for free is really an excellent hack. It's a huge hack for being able to do what you want to do, right? Decrease in your expenses. And then in your situation, which is a great one, you could do that and bring in about $500 a month. That's a really, really great starting point. And, if I had to do it all over again, I think that would be something that I would look at from my initial first home. You could do that from a FHA perspective. You could do that for up to 4 units. So buy a 4 unit property, 3.5% down, live in 1 unit, rent out 3 units. I mean, that's a really, really great launching pad for moving yourself into the real estate investing business.
Totally. Yeah. And you can keep, you keep leapfrogging it too, right? I mean, you only have to live in the property for 1 year, I think. So 4 units, then save up, for that year, get another 4 units. And I mean, keep doing that for 5-6 years, a little bit of sacrificing, but I mean, before you know it, you have a pretty nice portfolio.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a great way to leverage, and people should definitely look into it.
That's great. That's great. So your first syndication deal, your first larger multifamily deal, you said it was 89 units. What brought you to syndication? You said that you wanted to move into syndication. What is it about syndication that really interested you?
The ability to scale quicker, I think, was I knew like pretty quickly there in that story. I kind of said, I mean, I wanted to get into real estate full time. I wanted it to be my full time thing. I knew I loved it and I was passionate about it. And thinking through the trajectory of just buying, a few properties a year, nothing wrong with that. But I think it took much longer for me to get to the end goal of being full time in it. So it really just it checked all the boxes for me, and I knew that was the path I wanted to take. So that's kind of where I went. And there's some. It took a while, right, to break into it and kind of get some deals where I was making money on them. But there was ultimately a paid off where now we have the processes down, the investors, and we're able to scale at a larger pace.
Great. And you mentioned that you brought on two partners in your business. So just from I'm moving from, I don't know if you know my backstory, but I have some 2, 3, 1 unit properties in the residential world, and I'm moving into the larger multifamily. So when you move into syndication, based on the experiences that you have, what skill set, what strengths were you looking for in your partners to help offset what your skill sets were? I know you'd mentioned that you have strength in underwriting, some asset management, finding the deals. So what strengths were you looking for in your partners?
Yeah. So when I kind of started to learn about it, I decided to just focus on, because there's a lot that goes into syndication and buying large multifamily in general, right? And so I decided to just focus on one piece of the process, and underwriting was that piece that, kind of had that analytical background, understood how to use Excel. I mean, it's kind of like that was the natural path for me to learn. So that's where I spent a lot of time and kind of was able to leverage that and say, hey, I know how to analyze deals. I know how to analyze a syndicated deal, and went out, and the partners that I was trying to find were ones that first had the experience, right? Had the net worth requirements, had all that stuff to get the loan for the property. I mean, that time probably, might even had a negative net worth. I mean, so I wasn't going to get the loan for the property, right? So I needed someone that had the experience, someone that had connections to raise money. I didn't really have connections to raise money at that point. I didn't have much bringing to the table, right? Aside from this, I know how to analyze a deal, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a huge part of the process. So, I really just had to network hard and find partners that were willing to kind of see the larger vision, and then that transition. And now, I obviously learned all aspects of the business and partake in everything. But in that initial startup there, I figured I would focus on one piece and then go out and find the partners that were strong in the others.
You made an interesting comment there, and I've had this conversation in the past with another guest on the show, but I think you're saying underwriting is a small part of the deal. I think for many of us, when we have a strength, we see it as something that's pretty simple, right? So you have a strength in underwriting, and your instant reaction is, well, it's not that big of a deal, or it's a small portion of the deal. And I think that's because it comes naturally to you that it's something that you do well, right? So I think this happens for a lot of us, right? We excel at something, or we do really well at something, and we have a hard time understanding why others aren't really good at this thing, because it comes naturally to us. But underwriting is a really big portion of the startup process, of the process of finding the deal and making sure that the deal works. And the further I go down this road, and the more I'm moving closer towards finding that right opportunity and hopefully getting into my first larger multifamily opportunity, I'm learning that there are people that do not want to underwrite. They want good deals to be brought to them. And there are people who feel like they do not excel at it. They don't enjoy it. They don't necessarily feel like that's in their wheelhouse, if you will. So I think that really is a good strength. One of my coaches and mentors said to me that the two most important things in any real estate investment business are deals and dollars, right? So you need to find and analyze deals, and then you need to get the dollars, and someone needs to invest in them. So your strength really does fall in line with one of the most important things there. So I do think it's a great asset for you to have, and obviously it's working well for you with your partners at this point.
Definitely. Yeah, it is an important piece, right? I mean, yeah, I might have downplayed it a little bit, but it's it's an important part to know you're making the right investment, right? To have that you're assured that this is the right investment. I mean, it's nearly impossible to create a perfect 10-year pro forma. You're never going to get everything right, but as long as you're being conservative and understanding the numbers and not just going off of what the broker says in the pro forma, that's going to make you much more reassured when it comes time to close and take that property over.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that your first syndication was an 89 unit deal. How many units are you at this point? What does your portfolio look like at this point?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I need to come up with an answer for that, because we started with multifamily, and then started doing more in the triple net space.
Oh, okay.
So we did some retail, we did some self-storage, some industrial. We kind of quickly, these deals just started coming up, and they were good deals, and we knew they worked. And we started doing them, and then so now our portfolio is pretty mixed, right? We have a good variety of asset classes. So obviously the triple net deal stuff, that's usually measured in square feet. Apartments are in units, so I don't necessarily have. So usually just go more by the AUM, but it's
okay.
So yeah, we got into the triple net space more so, and I think now that's the space we're most interested in and spending the most time. Multifamily is still great, and we're looking for deals there too. But just in our market here, that's where we're seeing the most opportunity, is kind of in the industrial and self-storage space specifically.
Okay. So when you're talking triple net, you're talking commercial, commercial retail, commercial storage, commercial industrial space. Okay, great.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Self-storage isn't necessarily triple net, but kind of falls into that category. So, industrial has been one that we're doing more and more recently, and probably our main asset class of choice right now.
Okay, excellent. So I'd like to talk a little bit about your multifamily networking event. You say you have the largest multifamily networking event, networking meetup in Wisconsin. So let's talk about it a little bit. We'd love to learn about it. How did you start it? And tell us the details.
Yeah, so that's been a great resource and a key component really to a lot of the connections we've built in the space. So about it was right on the time we started doing that first syndication deal. So it's been about a little over 3 years, and we decided it kind of was accumulation of I was going to when I was going to all these events when I was starting, right? I'd look an hour radius of where I lived, and whatever real estate event was, I was there. And I noticed the common theme of every single one I was going to was it was either about wholesaling or flipping.
Yeah.
Every single one I went to, that's all it was. And which is great, right? You're still valuable connections and valuable networking. But I was more interested in learning about like multifamily. I wanted to learn like how to buy a multifamily deal and more stuff around there. So, after searching and just not being able to really find any, decided let's just start our own. So myself and two partners, we started one, and just started, just having speakers and nothing super like official, right? We just got a free logo online, and I mean, it wasn't anything like super official. We just started holding these events, had a great turnout, and was like, all right, this is, let's keep doing more of these, and we just continuously kept doing more and more, and just grew it into a pretty big base of attendees that come each month. So yeah, we've consistently did it since then. And it's been a great resource, and we continue to do them. We're kind of pivoting a little bit now and doing less frequent events. But like, so the monthly multifamily wording in there might have expired actually here recently.
Okay.
So we're doing more so like less frequent events, but like bigger, like better events. That's kind of been our goal now. So, but yeah, the hosting a meetup is great. I mean, whether you host one or just go attend them, I mean, most markets people live in, there's going to be real estate networking events. If there's not one, that's a great place to start one, but go and attend those. I mean, to me, that's the, like one of the best ways to learn this industry and grow is meet local connections.
That's a great piece of advice. In my area, so we have South Jersey Real Estate Investors Group. There are a few different real estate investors group. I live in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. So in Philadelphia, there are several different groups, but it often seems like multifamily is either a subgroup or a subcategory of the main group. And I've made a lot of really, really great connections, but I like that you've taken the niche of multifamily and said, okay, let's just get together one group. And I like that you're holding in-person events with speakers and really creating an opportunity for education and really creating an opportunity for growth for a lot of other people. So, I know that they're probably great for you, obviously for your business, but it's networking events are really, I think at times they may be undersold or underplayed because that face-to-face, that opportunity to meet people in person, learn a little bit about them. Zoom is nice. Zoom helped us get through the toughest times of the pandemic when we couldn't see people in person, face-to-face, but that ability to sort of shake hands and actually learn the person's name and learn a little bit about the person and in a setting like that really, really does make a difference. So definitely wish you the best of luck with that. How often are you having them at this point? Are you looking at quarterly meetups, or what are you doing for now?
We've been doing bi-monthly. We might even go
Okay.
to quarterly. I've definitely noticed, and this is slightly off topic, but there's over like COVID, I think capturing people's attention became much harder. People's attention span shortened a lot after COVID, I think. And you really have to do something special, even if you're, bringing a cool speaker, giving out free food, free drinks. I mean, doing everything right. It's still hard to get people to come to spend 2 hours of their time, right? Whether it's virtually even or in person. So that's been kind of what we've seen. So now we're focusing more on just creating like more of an experience, like that's someone to be really excited to come to and talk about after and tell their friends and, tell them about this great experience they had. So that's kind of just been an observation we've had over the past, year or two through COVID. And that's kind of the reason why we created this pivot.
Very smart. Good job. Good job. So I want to transition a little bit. This is the Healthy Investor Podcast, and we like to talk to investors and entrepreneurs about what sort of either healthy habits or routines contribute to your life, to your growth, and even to your business.
Yes. So I love this topic. So this year, one of my biggest goals was to just create more of like increase my like performance, right? Overall is just being more healthy, right? Increasing my energy, all of the above. So, there's been several things that I've changed this year in my lifestyle that have contributed to that. I mean, the biggest one for me is morning routine. If talk about one specifically, I mean, that's been a game changer. I know, like before, previously, right, when I was at my corporate job, it was, I'd roll out of bed, shower quick, right, grab something on the door and out the door, and then that was the morning routine, right? Now I have this. I mean, it's like a 2-hour routine at this point. So I mean, I wake up, go through this full routine. So when I come into the day, it's like my energy's up here. I'm not just coming in, groggy and rolling into that first meeting. I mean, I'm coming in at high energy, feeling great, hydrated, everything's in my system, and I'm just coming in at a much better place. And ultimately just leads to better productivity and better energy throughout the day. So that's been a huge one for me.
So is this strictly physical, like workout, exercise, those sort of things, or do you also have a mental health, meditation, reading, those kind of things? Tell us a little bit more about what that routine looks like.
Yeah. So it's the workout I usually do at night, but so I have a little bit of stuff in the morning. So I mean,
Okay.
I'll wake up, I usually do like a smoothie, get some protein in, get all my vitamins. And then after that, I go and I do the meditation. I do kind of like some breath work stuff. I do a little bit of yoga. What else? I mean, I do like gratitude, those sort of things. So I'm kind of, in that zone for a little while, and then I go on a morning walk, like the morning sunlight. I mean, that's a huge one. I mean, we don't get that year round in Wisconsin, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sometimes that's treadmill, but I mean, I'll go out in the sun for 30 minutes and just walk down by the lake. And I mean, listen to a podcast, kind of get some education in. And then I come back, cold shower, and I'm just ready to go after that. Right. I mean, I just feel totally like amped up, excited to go work. Right. Compared to what I was talking about, if I just would have rolled out of bed and just hopped on my computer first thing. I mean, you're just in a much different state of mind and much different energy level.
That's great. So I love that you talk about just going for a walk and just getting outside. One of the things that I recently added to my schedule. So we have a newer dog. He'll actually be 9 months old this week. And one of the things that I recently added to my schedule is that around 7:15 every day, I'm just taking him for a walk. Just the two of us go for a walk. It helps to burn his energy and get a little bit of his energy out of the way. But, one of the things that I learned sort of in the beginning of COVID and everyone being at home is that it's very easy to stay inside. It's very easy to not get yourself going. And if you could just create some sort of routine or schedule that gets yourself out the door and get yourself moving. And like you said, sometimes it's the sunlight, sometimes it's a cool brisk breeze, depending on what time of year it is. But I think that fresh air first thing in the morning is really a great way to get started. I also love that you touched on gratitude. There's a saying that you can never be grateful and angry at the same time. And I really feel like setting your day up with gratitude, thinking of the things, as high performers, as people who have high goals and are constantly trying to achieve different goals, and we set higher goals, and we want to achieve the next goal, and we're always sitting around looking and thinking about, okay, what am I going to do next? How am I going to capitalize on that? Sometimes it's easy to lose sight of the fact that you've achieved so much, you've done so much, you have so many great things in your life, great people in your life, great places. We wake up every morning, you wake up in a beautiful home, and you are able to have breakfast. And if you can remind yourself of the things that you have and the things that you have the right to be grateful for and that you should be grateful for, I really do believe that sets your mindset in the right motion before you start the day. So I love that you're utilizing gratitude as part of your morning routine. So
totally. Yeah. That's been a big one. I think always it's gonna change, right? You're gonna see something and like, oh, I want to implement that. I'll change this. And so people should definitely look into it. And everyone has their own iteration, right? I mean, some things work better for others. But yeah, implementing some sort of morning routine, I mean, it's huge.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I want to go into our final segment, which is our final three questions. Ask the same questions of every guest on the show to learn a little bit about, your opinions on these things. So first question is, what is your definition of success?
Having control over your time. That, to me, I've realized that's one of the most important things, that I value the most is being able to have, complete's a big word, but having control over your time, where you can, create your own schedule. If you decide you want to go, golf this afternoon, I can block it off and go. You don't have to get it, approved. You're on vacation. It's not necessarily, there's obviously going to be work and obligations and stuff you have to do as an entrepreneur, but I mean, having that control and being able to create systems in your life, right? Hiring people and automating things. I mean, just having control over what your schedule can look like in the future is a key thing for me.
I love that one. So, being able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, right?
Exactly.
It truly is the successful life that we're all going after. So hopefully you have a lot of that in your life at this point.
I try.
So question number 2, for someone who's new to investing or even learning to focus on their goals and their path to success, can you give us a good book recommendation?
I think a lot of I'm trying to think of one specifically that I started at. I mean, overall, I think on Bigger Pockets, those that aren't on there already, I mean, they have a ton of great resources. Go through their book. They have a ton of good, intro to real estate books on their website there. And I mean, just the forums, their podcasts. And I think that's a common theme of people start to get into their content, and that, creates their base of education. That's where I started and kind of got, just cranking through a lot of their material was how I got my base of education. So that's a good place to start for people that are kind of looking to get the intro.
That's great. I love that. So Bigger Pockets really has been the entry level resource for many of us, right? When I first started listening to podcasts, Bigger Pockets was the place to go. And it began as a podcast resource for free education. And now they've grown and they really have an excellent publishing company. They have their own publishing company, so they co-publish with a lot of guests. As a matter of fact, we've had guests on here already who have co-published books with them. So really great resource. And you mentioned house hacking. The first time I ever heard the term house hacking, it came from Bigger Pockets. Yep. So maybe they coined that phrase. I don't know, but I know they have books about all of those things. So that's a great one. So before we get into the final question, I just want to first of all thank you for being here. You and I actually had to unfortunately reschedule, and I appreciate your ability to pivot when we needed to. And thank you so much for being here. This has been a lot of fun. You've given a lot of great information. How could we support you? And then how can some listeners reach out to you if they want to touch base?
Definitely. Yeah. A great place to get in touch with me is through Instagram. Been doing more there and posting as much real estate content I can there. Just my first and last name, Brock Mogensen. Shoot me a DM on there. I always respond to those. Our company website is smartassetcapital.com. I have some free kind of ebook downloads there, and as well as kind of some different course stuff that I've put out there. So those are the best places to get in touch.
All right. Well, that's great. That's very nice of you to offer a free ebook and to be able to share that knowledge that you have. So definitely, if you're listening to this episode, definitely take Brock up on that opportunity. I like to find as much education wherever I can. So definitely take him up on that offer and go download the free ebook. Final question. If you could think back to a young Brock, maybe ages like 10 to 12 years old, knowing what you've learned so far on your journey, what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give to your young self or really any sort of pre-teen age child to help guide them towards success?
At that age, I think just starting to learn the money game. I mean, I think whether it's, real estate or just the basic concept of creating passive income or, expenses. I mean, just all of the above. I mean, I really think they don't, I think it's a common theme. A lot of people think that they don't teach enough of that in high school and even earlier. But, just starting to understand how the money game works. I mean, once you understand passive income, investments, cash flow, appreciation, I mean, tax benefits, all those different things that can apply to, many different investment choices, but understanding that and starting to build that knowledge really early on. Obviously you're not going to get really complicated in the beginning, but just start learning, right? The real basic stuff. And that'll just catapult to when you get to the age when you're starting to make money and working your first job. I mean, then you already understand it all and all right, I got X, I got to put it over here because that's going to build it over to here. Just building that education early on will help a lot.
That's great. That's great information. And, that's part of the reason that I asked that question. I mean, I have a daughter who's 11 years old, and, I see in her friend group and her age group, I try to listen to some of the things that they're talking about. And, I think in the education system, we teach our children many things, but I think we could do a better job at teaching them about money and about financing and understanding of it. So great piece of advice. Well, thank you so much for being on the Healthy Investor podcast. For those of you who are listening, please check out Brock Mogensen. Check him out on Instagram. He and I are connected there. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate everything that you've had to share. And thanks so much, and make it a great day.
Thanks for having me on.